Welcome to the video. We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite, or maybe in some cases second favorite starter champion inside Raid Shadow Legends. So if you just booted up the game and you're curious how to build your Kael, this is going to be the video for you. If you're in the mid game, the late game, and you're a little unsure what stats to be focusing on, blessings, those sorts of things, then this is also going to be the video for you. So let's go ahead and hop straight into it. When we look at Kael here, there's a few things to make note of. I haven't switched over his blessing quite yet. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, what does Kael do? Well, he has an A1, 100% chance of placing the small version of a poison. Inside Raid, you have two versions of the poison, essentially the 2.5 and the 5% poisons. Obviously, his is a small one, though it is a 100% chance to place. A2, Acid Rain, AoE, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit. It's going to fill the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each enemy killed. So this is absolutely fantastic for example for spiders, right? So if he has enough attack and enough crit rate and crit damage to be able to cycle through the spiderlings, he can definitely do some good things there. And then finally, an A3, Disintegrate, attacks 4 times at random, has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. This is on a 4-turn cooldown, so definitely, you know, a bit of a longer cooldown than we'd like to see, but his A2 is on a 3-turn cooldown, which helps to balance this out quite well. And then we have an HP in all battles by 15% for the aura, which is pretty strong as well. Just getting your team more tanky is always a good thing. So when it comes to blessings, if you have him inside some sort of like a blood shield accessory or something like that, emergency heal is a good way to go. I did previously have him built out inside blood shield. That's why I had him in that particular blessing. Now, Nature's Bounty is also going to be incredibly good because whenever he's applying the small version of a poison on his A1, he's going to have a 15% chance at minimum, all the way up to a 60% chance to apply the greater version of that debuff. So he'll have a 60% chance to apply a large poison instead of the small poison, which is very, very strong, especially for counterattack compositions, or if you have him built out with counterattack masteries and those sorts of things. I don't have him in a relic, though there are certainly great options for it. So if you happen to have a Gore Crescent, that's going to be a fantastic option for him. The Malefic Talon is also going to be very strong because it's going to scale his crit damage, give him a chance to just do more damage, right? Gives him some HP, attack, and crit damage, which is quite nice. Anything that's going to give him more of those stats is always going to be a good way to go. Of course, if you happen to have Wand of Submission, which it looks like everybody's going to be getting here in the near future, you can throw that on him as well, right? If you're using him inside the arena and you don't have a better damage dealer quite yet, or, you know, wherever you might be using him, Kael is a absolutely fantastic champion, so he's definitely worthy of it. Now, for the stats that I have on this build, we have almost 34k HP, 45, almost 4,600 attack, 206 on the speed, 101 and 247 on the crit rate and crit damage respectively, 203 and 195 on the resistance and accuracy. So the priority stats that you're really looking for on Kael are going to be attack, of course, because all of his skills are attack based. However, with Kael, a lot of his damage, especially against clan boss and those sorts of things, is going to come from his poisons as well. So you can definitely go a little bit more on the HP and a little bit more on the defense side, and he'll be very, very strong. I would recommend crit capping him. Only his A2 has the increased chance of a crit landing, so with the A2 you only need an 85% critical rate on him. It would be nice if that was his entire kit. It would make it a little bit easier to build him, but for his A1 and his A3, he's going to need 100% crit rate to land those crits, of course. 195 accuracy is enough for the purposes that I am using him. You can get more out of him, obviously, if you have more accuracy pieces on him. So you could even run an accuracy chest plate if you're really concerned about it. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that, though. In terms of the sets, you can see I just kind of have him in whatever mishmash of gear that I could actually throw on him. On a late game account like mine, you get so many bonuses from the Great Hall, as well as, you know, auras and faction guardians and all those sorts of things, that you don't necessarily need to rely on sets as much. Now, if you're in the early, mid, or, you know, even early late game, I would recommend building him inside Savage. Savage is going to be a fantastic set for your Kael. Very early game, players can build him inside Lifesteal, of course, to help keep him alive. It's going to make him a very competent campaign farmer for you. As you can see as well, like from the gear that I have, it doesn't have optimal stats by any means, right? So we have attack percentage boots just to try and boost that attack up a little bit higher and still getting good speed on the substats. Now, these stats that I have on him are, not necessarily something that you're going to be able to attain early game, but it's certainly something to work towards. So in terms of other sets, he's also very strong in perception, of course, as you might imagine. Speed sets, it all depends on how you're going to use him on your particular account. You can build him one of two ways. The first way just being a straight DPS unit, not worried about accuracy, just crit rate, crit damage, and attack. Second way is going to be more of kind of like a survival support unit, almost in a way, where you build him with a little bit more resistances, HP, accuracy, those sorts of things, and then give him the accuracy he needs to actually land the poisons in whatever content you're trying to progress through. So that being said, let's go ahead and let's just do a quick run into Dragon here, Dragon 20, and we'll see what Kael is capable of doing as it stands currently. So again, keep in mind, this is not a DPS-centric build, of course, right? So he's not built out inside Savage. He doesn't have incredibly high attack. His crit damage isn't incredibly high, nothing like that. So there is certainly a lot left on the table. And I would say that's a good thing, because if I just sit here and show you the most endgame build on a newbie champion, it's not really going to do a whole lot to motivate you to do better with your build, right? So I think that's one of the mistakes that content creators, especially in the raid scene, do, where we focus more so on the end game, when in reality there's new players coming into this game every day and they want to know how to build their champions as well, right? So let's go ahead and get that AoE decrease defense from Lydia there. We're going to go in with the A2, and boom, as you can see, very, very decent damage even in this build. So we almost one-shot these guys, and again, this is stage 20 of Dragon. So for a rare to be almost one-shotting these is pretty strong. Now, if we had him built as more of a DPS champion, he's definitely going to be able to one-shot them. You can see that on his A3 there, he did like 30k per hit, still very, very decent damage as well. We don't have any poisons out there, essentially just because, we didn't proc them, or the people that we proc them on are just now dead. So let's do the A1 there. A1 72k, very decent hit. This guy has around the 4500 attack, I believe it was. So for him to be hitting this hard is very, very admirable with no Savage set or anything like that. So once you start to throw those sets on him, you'll really be able to see just how much stronger he is. No increased attack, no decreased defense, still hitting for almost 30k and taking a solid maybe 15% of their HP bar off, which is very, very strong. And then, of course, if he kills somebody, he's going to get a turn meter boost from that as well, I think it was. Or was it a critical hit? Let me check the A2. Fills him for each turn meter. Geez, I cannot talk. Fills his turn meter for each champion killed, so not necessarily something that's happening. Of course, you can see he's landing the poison on the A1 too. I must say, having an A1 that has a 100% chance of landing a poison is a very underrated part of his kit, because again, in any sort of counterattack compositions, or even if he's just a survival champion, all you need to worry about is just getting the accuracy on this dude, and he is going to do absolute work. As you can see, his A3 doing good damage there, so we're going ahead and we're hitting into like the Hordens and everything there and doing very, very good numbers on them. He does have an increased attack, but he also has a decreased attack, so he's going to be kind of even here. Boom, we do the AoE 70k, even with the decreased attack on him. So just base level attack with a decreased defense. Kael is able to do some work. Let's go ahead and talk about the rest of his kit, right? So we didn't cover Masteries, we didn't cover the actual gear. So in terms of the gear pieces, this is what we're rocking. Again, if you had him built out inside Perception or something like that, there would certainly be better options here. Literally have him inside of a defense and HP reaction ring that's a 5-star, so there's certainly a lot of stats left on the table for this dude. And then we have him in an accuracy banner that's not even rolled up fully, so definitely could do a lot better than this in terms of the stats. Of course, like I mentioned, we went over the blessings there too. I forgot to mention the Masteries while we took a look into it, and he is at 206 speed, so we might be able to showcase him a little bit in the arena as well. Now, my Kael does not have full Masteries, but there's essentially one of two ways you can build him. I would recommend coming over to the offense tree and going down to War Master, so you have a chance of getting that extra damage, especially if you're fighting enemies with higher max HP. So for example, Clan Boss, Hydra, those sorts of things. This is going to be a very strong Mastery for him. Alternatively, you can come down to Retribution and Deterrence. These two are going to make it so he counterattacks a lot more, especially if your team is getting hit hard, if there's stuns being placed on them, those sorts of things. So Clan Boss is perfect use case for that. And then you can also build him inside the support tree. So I would recommend always offense tree and then your choice of defense or support. Support is going to be more so if you just, you know, don't have the stats to really effectively use him. So if you need more accuracy and those sorts of things, you'd want to come over to the support tree and build him out there. You could also get him into something like a Master Hexer to extend the duration of a poison being placed. And then, of course, you could come down to Eagle Eye as well, again, if you can't reach the accuracy thresholds that you need. Let's go ahead. Let's just mess around and run him in the arena here a little bit. So we'll put him in our speed team. And then we'll actually bring in Kael instead. Now, I think my Lydia is slower than my Lammasu, which is a bit of a shame because I would love to be able to use Lammasu right after Lydia in order to boost him up, but I do want that decreased attack, or decreased defense rather, out there as well. Now, this is definitely not an incredibly strong team by any means, any stretch of the imagination, but this is also a team that you guys are probably going to be facing inside the arena, certainly the live arena and those sorts of things, so you can get an idea of what he's like. And boom, we're going to go ahead and smack in there. We get the unkillable over here, which is the only reason he's not dead. And then Deliana, I think, was a weak hit there, which was a bit of a shame. Let's go ahead and take out the Rhonda here. Boom. Deliana keeps coming in with her A1s. We're going to go ahead and hit the Skion here, I think is his name. We'll get the poisons out there. That should be enough to take out Deliana, but they all go into the Skion, which is a bit of a shame. If you didn't know, by the way, it doesn't matter who you target when you're using a skill that says attacks all like randomly at 4 times or attacks, you know, whatever it might say with his A3. It's essentially just going to land somewhere randomly anyway. So you can see we take them out pretty easily there. Let's go ahead and see if we can find a bit of a harder team. Let's run Kael against Sifi and Taurus. I'm sure that would go well, right? This guy has a Saoirse profile picture, and he's a 6.9 million player power account. That's pretty crazy. Let's go ahead. Let's try it against this team. He has a higher player power than me, which is also pretty crazy, but I'm thinking that probably has something to do with the fact that he has an extra legendary. He has everybody inside Stone Skin, which is pretty wild. I don't know what they're all doing in that set, but we get the decreased cooldown on everybody, but we only strip the Stone Skin from the Sun Wukong. So we'll take out Wukong there. As you can see, 78k A1 is very, very strong. Now, the Arbiter being in a 2-turn Stone Skin is definitely going to kind of mess us up here. I wouldn't mind going against this team again. I'd love to see if we can just get that Stone Skin stripped off of them. It was very unfortunate that my Crixia was not able to do that. So we got 50-50'd on every single champion, apparently, except the Wukong. And it happens again. Amazing. Lovely. Love to see it. They don't even have Lightning Cage, and it's just protecting the Stone Skin. Let's try one more time. I'm very excited to get Embrys for this exact reason, because he's going to make Stone Skin just essentially irrelevant, so you'll be able to very easily have Embrys come in and then just strip off that Stone Skin. There we go. The Arbiter gets it taken off this time, but nobody else does, apparently. Let's see if we can just smack in, though. Take out the Arbiter anyways. 81k on her. You get the idea. That is how you build Kael. Those are the stats that you're looking for. I hope this was helpful. Let me know down in the comments, of course, if you picked somebody besides Kael, and let me know why you're watching this video if you did. But either way, thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.